What it is? How's it going, everybody? Today we're going to be talking about Euphoria Season 2 on HBO and HBO Max. We're going to be talking about all the things. We're going to be talking about the kids, the drugs, the mayhem, Cassie. We're going to talk about all of them. So sit back, relax, grab a beverage, grab a snack, and listen on in on the first ones to die. Tripping in my hallway right
now. Hey everyone, welcome to the First Ones to Die podcast. My name is Jonathan. I'm here with Alex and Jerome. Alex and Jerome, how y'all doing?
I'm doing good. How you doing, Jerome?
I'm all right, chilling. Yo, for real, like
there's a dog.
The dog is just going crazy in the hallway.
Oh, someone's dog?
Yeah, someone's dog.
What is it doing? Is it tap dancing?
Is it barking? Just barking at nothing. I don't hear anybody else out there, but I guess the dog. So they're probably barking in their apartment.
All the other dogs. He's like, "Hey, are you dog? I'm dog." How you doing, Jonathan? How's your week?
I'm good. Had my last day at my old job, onto a new job next week. So exciting stuff.
Nice.
So I'm going to take over real quick because there was something on last week. We rushed through our episode nearing the end because I did have a job interview and these guys, lovely guys, allowed me to kind of, they went through really fast for the end for me. And I appreciate that. But there was something I wanted to bring up before we talk about today's episode. And it's something important and I think it needs to be addressed. How the fuck does Jonathan able to stop in the middle of an episode and walk away?
Wait, what happened?
You're able to pause a show in the middle of an episode and come back to it like later, like a day later, and I refuse to let that go. I've held on to it.
I thought you were talking about in the middle of our episode, like I would just walk away while we're recording our podcast.
Watch a TV show or a movie or stop in the middle of it and like even come back like the next
Audience will put up a poll. Follow us at the First Ones to Die.
I want to know what's wrong with you.
Let me know if you can stop a show in the middle of watching it, pause it for a few minutes, get something to eat, go to the kitchen like a normal human.
That's not the way you said it. You said it like you could stop and just like stop an episode in the middle and then just walk away and like go to sleep that next night, like that night.
Yeah.
Come back
absolutely.
Later some other day.
I could do that too.
That's what she's talking about.
How do you stop like how do you not finish the episode and then like go to sleep? How do you like stop it and then like go to sleep? Like,
because maybe sometimes I'm like, oh dang, it's midnight. I need to be up at 6 a.m. I got a presentation tomorrow. I got a job interview tomorrow. It could either be my livelihood or it could be this last few minutes of euphoria. So I pick and choose my battles, okay?
I've never had somebody choose their livelihood. You can't look at me and tell me you've heard somebody be like, oh yeah, no, I stayed up till 4 a.m. to finish that show.
Or it's like, dang, I got to be on the podcast at 6:30, but I'm in the middle of this Love is Blind reunion. So I got to pause, which I actually finished. I did finish before the podcast. Okay. And it was messy.
I was like, we're going to stop it. I want you to finish it. I want you to go finish that episode. It still amazes me that. And I was like, that needs to be, I said we were coming back to it. I wanted to come back to it. And what sorcery you are able to do such a thing.
Black magic is this. Speaking of shows, I've been watching.
And by the way, congrats on the.
Yes, congratulations.
Because she forgot, she didn't mention that she aced, she got the job. So
I did get the job.
Congrats.
It's the same work that I'm doing, but hell of a lot more money. So that is just great. I am super excited for that. Just more money.
There we go.
Buying a real apartment soon. Thank you guys, and I do appreciate working with me so well in the last episode. You guys really were able to just pack it out in the end. We're like, all right, let's go. What show were you watching, Jerome?
I've been watching a few shows. I've been keeping up with Bel-Air. It's been pretty all right. I don't know if I'm going to do a mini review for it or not yet, but it's all right. They finally finally are getting into some original stuff that's like not. I honestly can be
I
like,
heard
there is
Michael
no Fresh
Ealy
Prince
recently got
episode equivalent.
introduced.
He is in it. He's creepy. Well, not creepy. It's more that it's just like, and I'm hoping they're gonna subvert tropes, but he's clearly like that character. You know how there's like when you have a hot mom character, there has to be the guy who's clearly also pining for her, despite the fact that she's also married. That's Michael Ealy's character.
Yeah.
He's an art guy who's like, hey Vivian, how you doing? Your art's amazing. Like that's how he talks the whole show. There is never a time where he's just like, hey, what's going on? How you doing, brother? Everything is, wow, this is incredible. You should share your art with the
Sounds
world.
like he's talking in an NPR voice.
You know what I mean? That's what I mean by creepy. It's like, yo, are you trying to run game with every person you talk to in this show? Like, what's happening? But that being said, though, it's getting good. So it's getting good. Also, I watched and finished Reacher on Amazon Prime. It's hilarious, unintentionally so, because it's an action show, but it's just hilarious in that like the main actor Alan Richson, I think is how you pronounce his last name. He's like huge in the show. So there's just multiple moments where he'll just like talk to people, but because of his size, like you're like, ain't no one gonna challenge him. Like there's one scene where he's like, there's this dog chained up in the yard of this dude. He's just walking by and he's like, hey, that dog's chained up in the yard and he needs water. So he just like gets some water for the dog. And then the owner comes out and he's like, hey, what are you doing in my yard? He's like feeding your, water, giving your dog some water. And I forget what he says, but I think he's like, he's like, I take care of my dog. And Reacher's like, no, you don't. And he's like, you calling me a liar? And he just legit stands up and it just looks at him like, yes. And that dude's like, all right, well, like he doesn't do anything. He just sits there and takes that. And I'm like, if I had a dude that size coming to my yard, feeding my water and my dog, I don't think I'd challenge him either. I'd be like, nope, you know what? I don't wish to have an ass whooping today. So
That's fair.
Fun fact, he actually auditioned for American Idol as well and made it to
Really?
Hollywood. But then
So
I
he
think
can
got cut at
sing?
Hollywood. Yeah, he's a singer. I the only reason I know this is because I was watching the Today Show and he was interviewed and he sang to Hoda and Jenna. And they showed a clip of him auditioning for American Idol.
I know he was a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle.
He was. I think he played Raphael, I think.
Let me take a quick.
He played one of them.
He played one of them, and I just remember that being such a terrible. He did play Raphael. That was a terrible.
Well,
terrible
speaking of things that are not terrible, we have our episode that we have our show rather that we're reviewing today. It is Euphoria, season 2 of
Finally
Euphoria,
here.
Streaming now on HBO and HBO Max. Season 2 just ended last week. If you have not heard of Euphoria, first of all, get up from under your rock. Second of all,
that's even bigger this year than it was when the first season came out.
Exactly. And you've had time to catch up on it because it's been out since 2019. So Euphoria takes a look at life for a group of high school students as they grapple with issues of drugs, sex, and violence. So it's created by Sam Levinson, who's also, I guess, the showrunner. I guess
he is. He's the showrunner as well.
Okay. Stars Emmy Award winner Zendaya and a whole bunch of other people as well. A whole talented group of people. I didn't mean to say that like Zendaya and all those
other people.
The rest of them bastards. Anyway, moving on.
There's a talented group of actors. So if you have not listened to our reviews in the past, well, welcome, first of all, to the podcast. We hope you stay. Welcome to the fam. And secondly, first, we go over our overall thoughts, non-spoilers. So we won't talk about spoilers or details in this portion. And then we'll go into spoilers and give a warning before we do. So who wants to start? Who wants to give their thoughts on Euphoria season 2?
I'll start.
And I guess a little bit of season
Alex,
1.
Go ahead.
I guess a little bit of season 1 because we didn't do a season 1 review. So just your thoughts so far on Euphoria.
Deep, brother. I don't even
You're-
remember all of season
Yeah,
1.
I don't recall season 1.
Hold on. Like from what I can remember, honestly, season 1 was all right. I think
A
the
lot of
biggest
season
thing
1's of things are like just building up the characters, and season 2's are really where you get to feel of what they've done, who they developed in, because you already know who these characters are, you know what they're capable of, and then seeing if they go past your expectations of what they built in season 1. For season 2, I enjoyed it a lot, especially nearing the ending. It got really good because it was kind of like all that collateral damage that has happened. It was like train wreck. That's what it was. It was a train wreck. But it was more so like you saw all the trains heading towards one thing and you finally got to see the implosion or the explosion. That's kind of was in a good way. In a good way. There were just a lot of great acting in season 2. I felt like everybody really was like committed to showing their character as who they were. And just trying to not just do any spoilers, but in the end it was just that I enjoyed it, and there were just moments where it left me speechless. Like I was watching it with my mouth open going, holy shit, this is good. Which is surprising because I'm not really like, I don't really enjoy drama shows like that so much. Ones that are taken like very seriously. But this was just, it was so good. Well done acting, well done writing, and I didn't have too many issues with it. The only thought I ever thought when I was watching is, where the hell are all the parents? Where are the adults?
They don't exist. They're Charlie Brown.
Where's
parents,
like a teacher, like a single teacher in that school?
They don't exist either.
Yeah, so like I was like, okay, like I mean, like my mom worked a lot, but like I still saw her. I still knew of her presence. I could remember a teacher seeing in high school. Nobody. And also how nobody got dress coded at the school. Or why? I never understood. I get why writers or why some creators think like, oh, if kids could wear, they would wear these type of shoes. No, I've never seen a high schooler want to wear stiletto heels ever. No woman really wants to wear them. Those are business shoes for, get your money. Those hurt. You know how much your feet hurt just from walking in normal shoes all day? You're gonna try to put them in heels? Like, no, most of you are like, I just need something that I don't fall in. Because no high schoolers balance well enough, honestly. We're still working our shit out up there. But other than that, like I really enjoyed the show. I thought it was really good, and I'm excited to talk about it. What about you guys?
Nice. Same. I really enjoyed season 2 in particular. I think I enjoyed season 2 more than season 1. There's probably more standout moments from season 1 that I enjoyed versus season 2. Season 2 was just like a lot. There's not too much to kind of pinpoint, except for some of the plot points that were just heightened. But I enjoyed season 1 as well. I just think I enjoyed season 2 a little bit more. Euphoria is an interesting one for me because when I'm watching the show, I am in it. I am invested in it. I'm on the edge of my seat with all of these characters. But then when I actually start to think about it, after I've watched the episode, after I've closed out of my HBO Max app, I start to critique it a lot more than what I'm critiquing about the show when I'm actually in it and watching it. It's that type of show where they make you believe everything that's going on when you're in the show, but then when you're out of it, you're like, wait, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. Why did they make this decision? And especially since I've been listening to like people podcast and recap about the show, because obviously it's a highly talked about show right now. So everybody's talking about it. And the discourse between people and talking about it, talking through some of these certain plot points, talking through some of these certain character decisions, you really have to ask yourself, why are they making these decisions? Not only creative wise, like plot wise, but why are these characters making these specific decisions? So that's where some of my critique of the show comes. I know Sam Levinson has gotten a lot of heat this season, so I don't necessarily want to add to that, but I will, voice some of my critiques throughout the spoiler section of the episode.
Yeah, I think I like season 1 of this show a bit better than season 2. That being said, season 2 is pretty good. It's got a lot of great performances from everybody. I think everyone's given 110% in this show, acting wise. I think the cinematography. Now, I will give you that cinematography on season 2 is way better than season 1. Like they went the extra mile to do some just incredible stuff. There's parts of this show where I'm like, this is just an art piece in and of itself. There's no dialogue, and I don't need any. Like this, all I want to do is look at the screen. So
and they were on film this season.
They're always on film. They're filmed season 1 too.
Oh, were they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've but it's like in this season, it's more, and they said this in a behind the scenes thing. They do the behind the scenes after every episode. They said they wanted to go for a different feel this time around, so they wanted to do less like dreamy sequences and colors and stuff like that. Like how in season 1 you have the scene where Zendaya's crying glitter, stuff like that. Like this time around, they were like, we want to be more down to earth and realistic. So you can see that film grain a lot more in season 2 than you could in season 1. That being said, though, story wise and plot wise is why I say I like season 1 better. It just feels like it's kind of more cohesive. Everything kind of ties up very well. It doesn't feel like I'm just kind of left in the dust, and we'll get into more of that in the spoiler section with certain things. And it's and on top of that, as much as I love the cinematography of season 2, I feel like there's a lot of dedication to artistic vision and artistic look, but without there being substance behind it, past just we want to do something that looks really neat and cool. Versus season 1, it feels like they were doing that but with a purpose. So that's my thoughts overall. I still love the show. I am excited for season 3. I'm glad they got greenlit for season 3. So I'm excited to see what that is.
That'll be on HBO. That'll be on HBO in about 7 years. Yeah, I think
2 years.
I think that's what they said.
You got 2 years. Zendaya was like, it's like, I can't believe we're now on the road to Euphoria season 3 that won't come out till 2024. And I'm like, okay.
But at least we won't have to wait right. At least we won't have to wait as long, though. I mean,
but I get it. I mean, editing film is hard, and you're talking about editing like 1 hour long episodes on film. The editing process alone is going to take like at least 2, 3, 4 months, and that's not including filming and scheduling, all the other things. So I get it. Makes sense. That's the downside of making your show on film. Atlanta has the same problem too, where Atlanta films is filmed on film. So the editing process for film is way slower than editing for just like on
Is
digital.
Atlanta still going? Sorry, really quick.
Yeah,
it's starting
season 3
again.
Is going to be coming out soon. I'm excited.
It's only in season 3?
Yeah, they were on a hiatus for a long time.
Okay, that's why I was like,
was busy doing other
oh,
stuff.
okay, then that makes more sense, because I was like, I feel like it's been on for quite some time, but okay, if it was on hiatus. Getting into,
but those are my thoughts. So before we get into
spoilers,
if you enjoyed this review, because for those of you who haven't finished Euphoria season 2, we are about to spoil the whole show, so just know that. But if you have enjoyed our little general thoughts and you want to see more, check out The First Ones to Die on all the places you can find the podcast and on the YouTube channel. You can listen to our other episodes, watch Euphoria, then come back and finish watching this one. And and if you do like what we do, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, give us 5 stars on the podcast apps, all that good stuff.
5 stars would help us out immensely. It would help other people find our stuff. So no pressure, but we would love those 5 stars.
Are we just gonna blow past the fact that Jerome started singing a little bit there? You got a musical?
Was I?
A little bit. All right, it's okay. So we are going to. Yes, give us 5 stars, leave us a review, and word of mouth never hurts.
Yes. Now,
Jonathan, go ahead. You said you had some critiques. So what's your thoughts on
I
Euphoria
do.
season
Well,
2 Unbound?
some of my critiques, listeners have probably already heard from. If you are on the Twitterverse, you've probably already seen some of what I'm about to say. But some of the storylines. Okay, can we talk about? We have a cast of all of these young people, 2 of which got killed off this season. Okay, it wasn't just
the second.
No, it was not, and I'm not. Neither of those are Ashtray, because rest in peace, Ashtray. We'll get to him later.
I see what you mean. Okay,
but rest in peace to McKay. Okay, he got killed off. Rest in peace to Kat. She got killed off.
Kat did not get killed off. She's on the show. She's just got a minor storyline.
No, she might as well be. What's the point? What is the point of her being on if she ain't gonna do nothing substantial?
I did read a news story where Barbie Fiera, is that how you pronounce her last name?
Fiera.
She did say that she's like, despite what people have been saying behind the scenes, she does not have no ill will towards Sam Levinson or the show Euphoria. And she's like one of those things where she's like she appreciated that her character had a kind of more silent storyline going on this season, but she would hope next season that we get to explore more about her fantasy stuff. But she was like, I was already prepared for her and Kat and Ethan's relationship to disintegrate. So
I also read a little bit of that interview, and she said that things were blown out of proportion. If you haven't heard, there was this whole kind of story going around that Barbie Fiera, she walked off the set twice and she was upset about where her character was going, which, if it's true, she has a right to be, because they gave her not even a crumb, okay, this season. And I didn't notice it until about midway through the season, where she was basically
I already was like, okay, so we just not having Kat in the show now? Well, she had a huge plot line in season 1. She's just not even around.
Well, midway through the season, okay, there is always potential for something to go somewhere. But when you recognize that she says the same lines in every single episode, then you realize that the storyline is not going anywhere. And on the topic of McKay, shows up in episode 1, never to be seen again. Pour one out to McKay, because they sent him off to college, and that could have been something, even though some people use the excuse of he's not in high school anymore, so why does he need to be hanging around these high school kids? My thought
too was, I was like, he's not in high school anymore, and I don't think any of those kids in high school that he knew, including Nate, were really his friends. It's just people you hang out with.
But neither is Rue's mom. She's not in high school. Nate's dad.
Okay, but she's the mom of the main character. That's different. Like, McKay is just a kid that goes to this school. He's not dating Cassie anymore. He's not friends with Nate. So he has no connection to this group of people anymore.
And honestly, these group of people were kind of terrible. So why would you want to stay?
That's true. He was spared, to be quite honest.
Okay. But regardless of all of that, if none of that were the case, why would we have an interview with the guy who plays McKay saying, I don't know what happened to his story. I was just as confused as the fans why McKay just disappeared. You would think that if he were actually in on it, if he actually had he envisioned somewhere his character would be, you would think he wouldn't be as confused as the fans as to why he just hopped and left off. I don't think it's unreasonable to think that even though he's 1 year removed from high school, that he can't be hanging around these kids. So
he did hang around. He came to the New Year's party.
Jerome, you're doing what you're doing, and I know what you're doing, so knock it off. I get what you're saying, that like he would definitely, there is a way for him to still be in the storyline, even though he graduated.
Right, because I think it's just lazy if you just say, he's out of high school, so
it's that
he doesn't have to be here anymore.
Like,
you can
cleverly sitcoms when they had like the brother go upstairs and all of a sudden you never saw him again. He didn't exist. There was no longer, the big brother or the cousin or whatever. It's kind of that effect. They're like, he walked out the door after the New Year's party and was like never seen again, never brought up again too. It is lazy writing because they're just like, well, I don't think anybody will pay that much attention when they realize people are a little intense when they get when you have a really good show. Of course you're going to focus on every character, and that's kind of what they did with him. And I think maybe because he was seen as not a fan favorite but very focused on in the first season, I think he assumed he would be getting more attention in the second, but then when he even realized like, oh, okay, so nobody cares.
I think it's that he didn't have anything for McKay to do, because even given he didn't even.
Well, then that's the laziness of it.
Well, against Sam Levinson, I'd rather him, because like the alternative is what he did to Kat. And to be quite honest, that's what I mean by this season. I don't feel like it's as cohesive as season one, because season one, it feels like all the characters balance out pretty well as far as like their stories, what they're doing, why they're doing it, whatever. Here, you could tell clearly he wanted to tell Rue's story. He was very interested in Cassie and Nate and Maddie, I guess that whole situation. Everything else gets pushed to the wayside outside of Lexi's play. But even then, Lexi's play is more of an episode thing. We don't see much storyline leading up to that with Lexi. She's kind of just in the background.
Well, so that's it's just the whole thing. Lexi was.
I know, but I'm just saying, it's like you have a whole show with a whole cast of characters, and yet you seem to be struggling with finding something for these characters to do in their downtime when they're not the focal point of their story.
Did anybody else find Rue and Jules' story boring?
At some points, yes.
Yeah, 100%. But I think that's the point, is that it's Rue's delusion that she's like, yeah, no, I could be with Jules and still be a functioning drug addict. I can do it. And it's like, no, you can't.
The most interesting storyline for me, and I heard someone else say this, that this season is basically surrounded. The central character of this season is essentially Nate Jacobs. And I agree with that. And that's the storyline. He's the
only one who gets a story arc that actually concludes at the end of this story. So at the end of the season. So yeah,
that's the storyline that I'm more drawn to, the Nate Cassie relationship of it all. That's the storyline that I was more interested in this season. Yeah, I wasn't, and I know, don't hate me, Elliot fans, but I wasn't really interested in his character.
I don't think anybody was.
We got some. Let me type in that Twitter hashtag. But I didn't think he fit in well. He kind of seemed a little shoehorned into the story. And then by episode 10, when he had that 8-minute long solo, I was just tired of him.
Yeah, which I think that's and that's what I mean by this show is so wrapped. There's multiple points in season 2 where the show is so wrapped up in artistic, like, oh, well, we thought it was like a really deep moment to have this thing. Okay, but does it serve the story though? Like, yeah, Dominic Fike can sing. Yes, he can play the guitar very well. But do we need to hear the whole song? Does it help tell the story any better than if we had cut that song about maybe halfway through? Probably not. And on top of that, I love how at the end he's like, I'm still working on it. It's like, still working on it? It's already 3 minutes long.
It's done. It's
done.
That was he had a chorus, a hook, and everything.
Right. What are you talking about? We're still working on it. It's not. No, you're not.
I think the show is supposed to reflect, and I was thinking about this earlier when I was watching the fight after the play, which again I so immensely enjoyed. She got her ass kicked so swiftly.
I love Cassie
so neatly. Cassie, well done.
All those scenes where Cassie's like, I'm crazier than Maddie, but every time Maddie challenged, I said it throughout the entire show. I'm like, Cassie, if you don't sit down somewhere, everybody knows your deal. All right. And it's the minute you apply pressure to Cassie, she cracks like porcelain. All right. She's not.
She said, I'm the villain, then immediately gets her behind.
Immediately, as soon as Maddie's like, it is now, you can see the Cassie's face like, oh shoot, who said that? Was that Maddie?
Oh my God.
That whole, she can't see me.
That whole scene where she's like, what did she do? She stole her. They weren't dating. Why?
No, that's funny. because it's like Cassie aired herself out. Although that
Oh,
was
she stood
that
up there.
episode. That episode on Rue is like on the run, which is my favorite episode, but not in that I like to watch it because it is a hard watch to get through. But just how it tells the story. But I
They are
love
going
that.
to submit that episode for this
Oh,
year's
of course.
Zendaya for the
Of
With
Emmy.
the
course. They're gonna
amount
submit
that
it for
she
the
was like
Emmy.
just running,
Mhm.
like the different angles of just running. I was like, she ran like a block, and they have like 7 different angles. Can you not?
But,
Thank you.
but I just love when all Cassie had to do was like Jonathan be saying, just sit there, eat her food. All right. She just had to sit there and not say nothing. And the second chatter.
Knock that off.
Thank goodness, I thought it was going to be my pet that was acting up on this
No,
episode.
he just like ignore the bouncing ears. He's just trying to go for my arm.
But the second Cassie talk about, you don't have to, be what she say? Like, you don't have to be,
you don't have to beat her
one
ass.
day at a time. And then I love Bruce just like, hey, real quick though, ain't you sleeping with Nate Jacobs? What? and she just, I love Cassie this whole season. It's like everyone keeps talking about Zendaya for an Emmy, which she deserves it. She's a great actress. But dang, I think
Sydney Sweeney.
Someone's got to give Sydney Sweeney her props, because Sydney Sweeney, I can't imagine doing this character. She is. It's like because it's just stress. Every episode, Cassie is in tears. I don't know how she didn't break her voice.
I didn't know how she didn't like make her like break anything when she was doing those lines, because they all had that same like strain to them, where she was like yelling but not yelling, and it was like the tension she must have had on her vocal cords. Yeah, she definitely deserves an award.
The only reason she won't be nominated or win is if the voters think she's too young, because a lot of times these awards go to like the older people, especially I feel like in the women categories.
Well, she would get supporting actress, right?
Yeah,
right.
Granted, though, I also say that because that was another news story for Euphoria of Sydney Sweeney talking about the fact that she's holding down majority of the nudity count in this show. And so she's talking about how a lot of people don't give her a lot of credit, amongst the people who matter as far as producers, stuff like that, for her acting ability in this show in particular, because of the fact that she's always, at least from her perspective, always being in the nude. And I agree. I think that is totally a way for a lot of people, especially men in the entertainment industry, to discredit her and just be like, oh yeah, she's the hot chick with the big boobs in Euphoria. And it's like, nah, she's talented. She's really good as Cassie. I think she's an incredible actress, and this performance does deserve an award. Like she's turned the whole world against her, her character, I mean. And that only can come by having a character who you really resonate with, and you like, you don't see them as the actress anymore. You see them as that character. So for my money, Sydney Sweeney deserves props and credit for that, despite the nudity thing. That's neither here nor there. The fact that she is just a great actress and her performance is amazing is why she should be recognized for Euphoria, not her body.
Yeah, because her character, a complete 180 in not only character arc, right? But perception as well. From last season with the abortion, everyone feeling, sorry for Cassie, and at some points, I can't remember what happened in the rest of the season because it was a minute ago.
McKay didn't do right by her, to be quite honest.
Right, she was a sympathetic character.
It's because he had his own insecurities and issues too.
Right,
so it's just, they were just kind of bad for each other in that way. But at the same time, I'm like, you've been friends with Maddie to see what Nate's done, and probably heard some horror stories of their relationship. What makes you think he's a good he's a good candidate for a boyfriend?
Which I also, not to go back to the McKay thing, but I also think that could have been a source of conflict as well. McKay, we saw a snippet of it at the party when Nate was all up in McKay's face and doing this weird taunting / sexual thing. towards him. That could have been a source of conflict as well, where you have the ex-boyfriend and now the new boo, and then how they interact as a trio, kind of. But for Cassie, going from that sympathetic, somewhat character last season to now starting off episode 1 with everyone being like, this dumb, and it's just a complete 180. And she played it well, and it was believable, and
she did. It felt like
good.
Organic. It didn't feel like she was forced into this new role. It felt like it moved with her, which is sometimes very difficult when you're trying to change that that view of the character. And sometimes you can feel it's like forced, like, oh, all of a sudden now they're like the good one, or now they're the bad one. It's like, this feels very odd. But her character was so well done, and it slipped so easily that you were able to go with that flow and have her be the villain in the end, as she stated. So I like applaud them for how they did Cassie's character. I can't say that for a lot of the other characters. A lot of the other characters felt like they were being more forced into their role. Rue's character, sometimes, as she's the main character, kind of just felt tiring, if anything. Like, we had to follow her storyline because she was the main character at certain points, which is really sad because Zendaya's acting is amazing. You know, her commitment to this character is really good. And I did enjoy her storyline, but I think it's with when Jules was involved and just other points. Her story felt like, oh, this is something we have to kind of be part of to be part of Euphoria. Wait, what was the name of the high school?
Yes. Okay.
Jonathan
so before the episode.
Wait, what do you think it is, Jerome?
What do you? I don't know. I'm not even gonna take a guess.
You're not even gonna take a guess.
No, not really.
Is it like a city name? Is it like a city name?
Kind of.
Merrill's.
Merrill's High School.
Yeah, Merrill's High School.
No, it's called East Highland High School.
That is such
sounds like the high school from High School Musical, East High.
That's what it's
about. Yeah, I was like, it sounds like something from a Disney film.
I mean, it's got a Disney star in it, so you know it tracks.
That's true. That's true. That's very true. But on the topic of Rue, I just would like her to do a little more. Granted, she's been doing a lot, but it seems like her two storylines are Jules and drugs, and it doesn't seem like that would be enough to sustain longevity going forward. And for me, it hasn't sustained in the 2 seasons, the 16 episodes that we've watched so far. I've been a little bored with.
I was gonna say all of her arc in season 1 is just her and Jules, though, too.
Right.
You don't get much.
Right, that's what he's saying. Like, it's in season 1 and in season 2. There's no other arcs to her besides Drug and Jules.
Mm-hmm. It should be on a t-shirt, Drugs and Jules. Whereas other characters, you know, Fez has this whole thing with Faye and Ashtray and Lexi and Rue and Nate, and he's like not even on the level of main character that Rue is. But Rue, she just is stuck in this one box. So I would like her to expand her circle a little bit more, even though she slightly interacts with many of the other characters. It's just her main thing is drugs and Jules, and I would like to learn a little bit more about her outside of those 2 things.
I think it's the reason why, though, is because Zendaya's kind of said this as much in one of the behind the scenes things, is that she is Sam Levinson. Sam Levinson, for those who don't know, was a drug addict in his teen years into his 20s. And, you know, now he's sober and he's doing good. He's got a family, you know, he's in the entertainment industry. But that part of it is him writing himself, basically. Rue is him pretty much down to a T, which is why a lot of the stuff with Rue feels the most real, because it's probably coming from real experiences Sam Levinson has had in his lifetime. But I think the thing about that is that it means that that's kind of all there is to Rue, is that Rue is Sam Levinson, and that's all there is that she's a drug addict and she loves this girl, and you get to see, and I think how he wanted to tell the story is that that Rue is the tragedy is in that character, in that she's severing relationships, she's unreliable, she's very self-centered at times. Like that's kind of the conflict of her character, and you get to see those moments. And then with everybody else, it's that they're just living their normal lives, but then like Rue's involvement in that can sometimes be catastrophic.
So I'm gonna go ahead and apologize to my mother for all future comments from this moment on. As somebody who, you know, used to do drugs in high school and stuff like that, I get where this character is coming from, but at the same time, as a teenager, you should be self-centered, you should be selfish and everything. You should, because that is a time of development, as that is a normal progress. And all these characters were very self-centered and selfish. So you can't really use that as
Fez. Fez is pretty cool.
Fez was a cool
Fez
guy.
Cares about people.
Fez helped out a lot more. Fez was a good man. But like that's just like how every teenager was. And with Rue's character, I get where it's that whole like, you know, you're drugged out, pretty much you have no access to the real world. I've been there and I get that. But there's also this part where you have to function. And that is the part where she's like, oh, I can be a functioning drug addict. I unfortunately was one of those. And you really just don't sit. You are active. You do stupid mistakes. You know, you do all this stuff. And there is more to it. And I think he is writing from his experience, but I think he might be also hiding from his experience. Because I talk about the cute, I don't want to say they're cute stories, but they're little fun stories about how the one time I licked a tree because I thought it was ice cream. Or one time everybody looked like puppets to me. I don't recommend ever doing that again. But like stories like that to make you smile. But really, it was a horrible, horrible time in my life. And I think he's just showing certain parts and not connecting to what was fully going on, because you want to hide those other parts that are far more damaging. When, you know, you can run the risk of driving while high and almost hurting somebody, or, you know, actually physically hurting somebody because you're unaware of your situation. She never really gives into the high where she's like completely gone from the whole of reality, where she actually becomes a danger to herself and, you know, others around her. And that is a real risk every time you take really intensive drugs. And I think, like I said, he kind of made her very dormant when she's high, or very dormant when she's just like in this like zone. You're not dormant, unfortunately. You're very active. You're still going, especially when you're in school or around family members. It is a constant movement and functioning that is, again, very dangerous. And I do not recommend to anybody ever listening, don't do drugs. It always ends badly. That's my PSA. I think he is only portraying, yeah, no, you're fine. He's only portraying a certain part. I agree with you. But like, he's also hiding from his experience too then.
I was just gonna say, I think he does do a good job of like showing, because you know everybody's drug experience is different, and also we forget, and mostly because it doesn't ever really come up, that Rue is a neurodivergent person. Like she has ADHD, she has dyslexia, she has all these other things going on, and I don't know if that's him addressing like that drugs for her are different in some way. But we do have those moments where she fades out, like with that church scene in where she gets high and she goes in the church. And I honestly thought, because for the longest time there was a rumor before the season started that someone was going to die, which I mean ended up being true. But nobody knew who it could be. And I was like, it'd be real bold if they kill off Rue. And I thought that episode was going to be the one, because it's like she goes to this church and then Jules is the one who ends the, you know, there's the narration by Rue throughout the entire show. That's the one time where Jules ends the narration. And then the season, the episode behind it, when they did like the next up on Euphoria, you don't see Rue at all. And you have all these characters crying and sad. And I was like, yo, did they just kill off Rue just now? Did she just OD
honestly
and die?
That probably would have made a big impact on the show and probably made it a lot better. Because like, I get what you're saying, but also, as I am neurodivergent, ADHD, bipolar, I'm a bag of fun of crazy. Pick a disorder, I probably got it a little bit. So like I get what you're saying. It is a different style of when you use the drugs, because I was also using drugs. I was not medicated properly at the time, so it was a way of self-medication. Again, if you think you are any of these things, please consult a doctor. Do not self-medicate in any form or fashion. um and I think it's just something he is not fully expressing the damage that is done when you do drugs and you are in an unwell state like that. I will say, I think killing off Rue earlier would have not been a bad idea. I think it would have been a big story hit. And two, I don't like her narration. I like Zendaya's voice, but the narration for the actual show with Rue, I don't like it.
It made more sense when
I
they were telling
remember
stories.
I remember 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I guess, when at the end of the season finale where Rue is singing and she's dancing in the street with the choir and singing. I remember me and Jerome. I remember we were talking and you brought up the theory like, what if she just died?
Yeah.
I knew that wasn't on a logistics side. I knew that wasn't going to happen because Zendaya is the moneymaker of the show.
Yeah, it's Zendaya.
But I don't see the show without Zendaya. And I think once Zendaya exits the show, I think that will be the end of the show. I don't think it will go on without Zendaya. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious to see what her storyline will be like going forward. A lot of people are like, okay, the drugs, is it going to be this constant battle? Okay, she's on drugs, she's off drugs, she's on drugs, she's off drugs, she's on drugs, she's off drugs. Or what is going to be her new storyline in a sense?
I hope that, because it's like season 1 was about Rue struggling with sobriety, but without an intention. Like, because she says at the beginning of the season she had no intention of staying sober. But then she meets Jules. And so then there's this balance where she's like, I want to be with this person, but I can't be with this person if I'm on drugs. So I guess I'll stay sober. The second season seems like it is to get Rue to, because she's back to using drugs, but it's also to get Rue to a place where she is, she wants to be sober for herself and not because of Jules. So I hope that the third season is just her. That's the new battle, is just being sober in general for yourself and kind of being by your lonesome. However, my issue is that, and this is again goes back to just leaving plot threads just dangling in the wind. I was fully expecting when Rue walks out of that theater and we have that shot where you can see like this wide shot of her walking out into the distance, that out of the corner or something,
somebody's gonna snatch her up.
Someone snatched her up, because I'm like, you just go like, is Lori just not gonna try and hunt this girl down? She knows her legal name, which Rue did not give her.
Oh, yeah.
So clearly she is well connected. So there's no way she is not just watching her or not on the look for her. And it's just like, the show's just like, well, doop, doop, we're done. I'm like, what do you mean you're done? You're just going to leave that dangling? You're going to leave dangling the like all these things?
And it's also going to be interesting in season 3 because, well, at the end of season 4, we had a couple things were resolved kind of, but we had some cliffhangers, more like what's going to happen in season 4, like repercussions of what's going to happen in season 4, like Nate's dad going to jail.
Oh, you mean season 3?
Or season 3? I keep thinking it's season. We should be at season 4 at this point.
Yeah,
well,
I mean,
you might be counting the special episodes, which I have to say, I will agree. Like, that's the other thing about Jules' story, because like Rue's story lines up perfectly with her special episode. It just kind of seamlessly goes right in. Jules' one, not so much, because it seems like Jules, like her special episode, it seems like it's going to set up for Jules to be doing some interesting things with her character. And then you get into season 2 and Jules doesn't really do much of anything. She's kind of in the background and is just like the love interest kind of Rue, but she also is like a cheater, which also that never comes up. The fact that she's like, I mean, we never implicitly see her hook up with Elliot, but at the very least, she was like making out with him and planned to cheat on him, to cheat on Rue with Elliot and sleep with him. So
it was enough that it felt like it was cheating to Rue, at least.
So
But for those cliffhangers, so we have, well, not cliffhangers, but you know what I mean.
No, they're cliffhangers.
Okay, so we have Nate's dad going to jail. We also have Ashtray. He's dead. Also, Fez. He's most likely going to jail as well. Possibly Faye as well. Faye's boyfriend is dead, and at during that scene before the cops come, Faye says, "I thought Lori was the person who killed Mouse. I was about to call him Moose. Who killed Mouse? So the police have that information. So the police might be knocking on Lori's door as well in a bit, and that might have repercussions on Rue.
Maybe. That's true.
I think
mean,
you
it's
just created the whole season 3.
I
I think that's
I
what
just-
you did. Because like I'm trying to think. I'm like, well, I think you just created season 3 right there. Yeah.
Well, because I'm thinking about, like, for example, it's one of those things where when I talk about loose threads, I just wanted more confirmation on like what is going to happen with Lori. Like, it just feels like they kind of drop it after the running episode is gone. They don't come back to it ever again. We don't come back to, like, when we do Nate and Maddie and Cassie, not so much. I didn't want to see them like brawl or anything like that, but I was hoping we'd have a longer conversation between Maddie and Cassie. And the way they kind of leave it off, I guess they're maybe leaving it for a redemption arc for Cassie, because Cassie realizes she comes out of her fog a little bit and she realizes, oh yeah, he did just break up with me, and I did this to myself. Like, I could have just walked away. I mean, at that point it was already done. But who's to say, because they don't have a longer conversation, so we don't feel like we kind of wrap that up. We don't really
I
Fez,
kind of think they need to stop doing the special episode things where they focus on one character at a time. Really?
Well, they did the special episodes because, or do you mean the
COVID.
actual special episodes? Or do you mean in the beginning of each episode you tell a story?
Kind of how they really focus on one person. What you can kind of tell the storyline they're going to focus on, particularly every episode, and they kind of have to stop doing that, because then you're kind of losing focus on the other storylines. And I think those other ones, that's why we ended up with so much cliffhangers. They get thrown in the back because you're like, oh, this episode, it's really going to focus on, this storyline. We're talking about these guys, but it's this one we're clearly showing you, and I'm showing you only. And then, there's not enough time to lead with the other storylines.
Well, they kind of leave that behind by the time they hit episode 5. And I only know that because they said as much. Like, I will say, if you do watch this show, watch the behind the scenes stuff after the show, because you learn a lot of interesting things about their like reasoning for doing things. But they did because like they did the first 4 episodes. They split the season into 2 parts. The first 4 episodes are supposed to be kind of like Euphoria season 1, in that it starts with someone's backstory, and then the rest of the episode is kind of, it deals with everybody, but mostly focuses on that character. And then when they hit episode 4, where you see all those like painter-esque shots of everybody, that's supposed to be, at least as far as they said, it's supposed to be like the halfway point of being like, all right, now our characters are set. You know who everybody is, except Elliot, but whatever. You know who everybody is, where they come from, why they are the way they are. Now we're just going to go forward. And it's why episodes 5 through 8, there are no backstory episodes. It's just going straight into whatever the plot is of that episode that week. That being said, though, I do agree that like the second we had a Cal episode, I'm like, Cal gets an episode? Who's asking for Cal to get an episode? Like, why do we need to know his backstory?
Jonathan was.
I kind of did appreciate the backstories in a sense. They did what, if anybody's seen Dear White People did that, where they kind of focused on a different character every episode. Mm-hmm. Then in the later seasons, they kind of messed it up. So hopefully Euphoria doesn't do this. But I kind of like that, in the sense that I love a good ensemble, and when everyone gets their kind of moment to shine, I kind of appreciated that. And Cal's they made it interesting. Especially Cal's backstory, they made interesting and gripping. If the backstories were, then I would have probably said something else. I wish they had focused more on the direct people in Rue's life, like her mom and her sister, because those were two of the people who I was waiting on a backstory for last season, but they never gave it to us this season. They had one little clip of Leslie, Rue's mom, as a kid singing in a choir that lasted about 10 seconds, and that was supposed to be her backstory moment. And so I wish they would have, hopefully season 3, they give us more of Rue. I mean, they give us more of Leslie and Gia, because we didn't see them once this season without the other two people. We didn't see Rue's mom without Rue and Gia, or Gia without Rue and her mom. So
I can tell you what she was doing. She's out here looking for Ali. Don't think I didn't see that second Ali came over to cook dinner. Mama let the hair down. She's like, "Oh snap, Ali coming? Hold on, let me get right. Let me." I thought that was so funny. I'm like, Rue, you better be careful. You might be talking to stepdad right now.
Right.
Hey, company's over. Maybe she just want to brush down her hair. Maybe she wants to look nice. Nothing wrong with that.
I mean, I get it. Coleman Domingo is a handsome brother. All right. So, speaking of which, he is my favorite character, and I was a little hurt. I'm like, dang man, you only get like what 3 episodes, one of which you don't even really talk. Like, he's barely in the show. He's like, he was one of my favorite parts of the special episode. I was hoping he would have more to say. And when the rumor came out that someone was going to die, my prediction was that it was going to be Ali, because I thought, especially once the Lori thing introduces, that Ali knows Lori because, he's just a former drug addict. He maybe bought from her. And then like the trouble Rue's in, Ali tries to get her out of it and dies for his troubles. But I mean, that didn't happen. So yay, more Ali, but also, I just hope they use him more. And maybe that might be because I learned this watching someone's recap, but review or something like that apparently there is a thing where people do have an issue with Sam Levinson and his treatment of Black characters ever since Malcolm and Marie, because he doesn't really know how to write Black characters, probably because he's not a Black man. And I don't think anybody who is Black on set is correcting him to be like, yeah, Black people wouldn't do that. Black people probably wouldn't say that, whatever. So maybe that's why he's like maybe shying away from it, because he doesn't want to, piss anybody off. But at the same time, it's like your main character's Black and her family's Black. So you kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. Like you're just gonna have to bite the bullet and deal, man. And I just say that maybe that's why Leslie and Gia don't really get a lot to do this season.
Let me not get some Black writers or figure out how to write Black characters. Let me just write them off the show.
That's true, because it's not like Sam Levinson can't. It's not like he doesn't have to write. Like, it's not like he has to write the entire show. He could just get a writer's room and have them help him write. Or, most shows do.
Honestly, he could just go to the actual actors and be like, "How would you do this scene if it was
that
you?"
Too. Like, he has options.
There's literally one on set right there. You can just ask them.
I'm sure Zendaya would not be shy to like write some dialogue. Like, like, you know what I mean? So it's, I don't know what that's about. Speaking of Cal, though, his story, like thinking of Cal, going back to him a bit, his story was interesting though this season. I didn't think they were going to do that much more with him, because in the first season he's kind of just around, but here you really get to kind of understand him and get where he's coming from. And while he's still a crappy dad, I think that's the best thing about this show, in my opinion, is that every person, no matter how terrible of a person they are, you understand why they are the way they are. Like, you get time enough to like learn what traumas made them into the people they are, especially if you've been watching the show from the very beginning. Like, you've seen a lot of Jules' backstory to know why Jules has to feel like she needs validation. You've seen enough of Cassie's backstory from season 1 and 2 to know why she's like wants to be loved so badly. She will literally, like, when she tells Nate, like, you can dress me and you can do whatever you want with me. And I'm just like, oh my God, are you signing up for, like white people for the longest time have been the arbiters of slavery, and you're signing up to be one. Like, what is going on? But you understand it, you get it. You might not agree with it, but you get it. So I think with Cal, being as this is the first time we're really getting to dive into his backstory and see more about him, I think they did a great job balancing out and introducing you to him and his backstory into why he is the way he is.
Yeah, and I think his role is going to be as significant next season, if not more. The fact that he was not killed off, because that would have been an easy thing to do. Although, as well.
That was also a weird scene. And it's why I'm like, I don't
why
know
he
if
brought
I like
the
this
gun.
finale. Yeah, because he brings the gun, but then he's just like, he pulls it out, then he puts it right back in the other pocket, pulls out a flash shot. I'm like, okay, your dad has never shown signs that he will kill you. So what the heck did you bring the gun for if you were not going to kill him either?
Maybe from the show's point of view, it was like parallel, because I remember there was a moment earlier in the season where Cal brought a gun when he was going to meet, when he was going to talk to Fez, and Lexi was there. It was that scene. Cal brought a gun and he was holding it in his pocket.
Where are these teenagers getting guns? Them.
Well, Nate got it from his dad. He found it in his dad's drawer, so at least that makes sense. Bel-Air also, Trent had it, or Trey. I'm sorry, I was calling him Trent like the whole Bel-Air review. Then I rewatched the show and it's like, actually his name's Trey, and it's always been that. It's never. But
where did he? That's the whole thing. Like a lot of times when I watch like teenager shows like this, I always just wonder, where are you getting is it just your parents?
I think he found it in. No, well, Cal was gone by then. Did he find it in Cal's stuff?
Well, he found it in Cal's drawer. He found it in Cal's desk drawer. So there's Euphoria does a good job of explaining where the gun comes from. Bel-Air, it's just Trey just has a gun for some reason. But
he's definitely breaking. Do we agree that he's definitely gonna somehow not be in jail next season?
Possibly. I mean, at the same time,
who do you think's gonna break out of jail first, Fez or Cal?
You know who is gonna get out of jail now? Probably that. And I was watching a Euphoria recap that talked about it, and I was like, oh yeah, Tyler. Tyler will finally be free from season 1. A character I'm sure everybody has forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
I've forgotten.
I just remembered him because when I was listening to a Euphoria recap like yesterday, and someone mentioned him, I'm like, oh yeah, that guy. I forgot.
Also, is Jacob? No, that's his real name. Is Nate Batman? Because he did this last season too. The first season, he snuck into Tyler's apartment and he was just in the background in the dark, like Batman. This time, he did the same thing with Maddie, where I'm just like, how did you get in here? He's just in the.
Why do you guys keep leaving your windows unlocked?
Because they're white people in suburban neighborhoods in California, Euphoria town. But I just love the idea. Also, I love that at the end of that scene, not in the literal sense, but in the just like, this is so stupid, where Nate traumatizes this girl like drastically. And then after she gives him the disc, which also I'm like, this is not the time to lie, Maddie. Just give the man the disc. What do you want it for? Why even lie to him and be like, I don't have the disc? Yes, you do. And he clearly knows you do. But anyway, he's like threatening to shoot himself all over her face. And then when she gives him the disc, he's like, nah, I was just playing. It's all right. The gun's unloaded. I'm like, you act like that's the issue. The issue is you broke into my house and threatened to kill yourself all over me and traumatized me with a gun. And that's after you pointed a gun at me, unloaded or not. Get out of here.
Yeah. Gun or not, had you had a rubber knife, that's still a threat. I'm gonna take that personally.
Right.
Somebody does that.
I have never felt so, because the first season I was like, man, whatever, Maddie. But this season I'm like, I feel bad for Maddie. Like, it's Maddie and Cassie's roles are reversed, and it's so interesting because you just feel bad for Maddie. Also, does anyone else catch the vibe that lady she was babysitting for was trying to smash? Or is that just
That's me? What I heard some people theorize. that didn't really go anywhere for me.
No, it did not. It didn't go anywhere either.
Yeah. So I'm wondering what was the whole babysitting storyline. Like
Maybe
it
they
didn't
wanted
go
to do
anywhere.
more. They wanted to do more, but they like couldn't figure out what they were
Instead,
doing with it.
we got a full out live at the Apollo performance from Elliot in episode 8 where we
That's what I
could have gotten.
mean. It's like there's a lot of things in this show. Artistically, they look cool, and artistically, I dig them. But they take up time that could have been used to flesh out some of these story elements that feel like they're just in the show to just be in the show, and then never get addressed. Lexi's play is also one of them. I love the play. Also, how much money did they allocate to the budget for this play? Because the set design is on point. Like they have an enormous budget for a high school play. I've been to high school plays and they are never this elaborate. There's a rotating stage in this thing.
And some of the content within the play was very suggestive. My high school would not have allowed that.
So that was just full on. It wasn't suggestive. That was putting it right there. Like, this is it.
Right.
Look at it.
Would it be okay to have a play about other students
in any sensible institution? No.
Well, clearly there are no teachers around, so the teachers and the faculty are not aware of what the students are going.
The drama teacher was
the drama teacher is the one teacher we've seen this whole season, and it's only for Lexi to ask, can I do the play? Yeah, sure. Okay.
He's like, yeah,
now,
whatever.
Excuse me, I'm going to put in my 2 weeks because I just found out teachers don't work here. So
yeah, so like you don't really have to get approval from anybody for the play to be about people if there's nobody to, have to review it.
When Cassie stormed the stage, we didn't see one teacher. We didn't see
her
one
mama had to come
figure.
up there.
I just love, and it's a sound now though. Is this play about us? That thing is all over TikTok now. It will not die.
Also, Susan though, she might be a drunk mama, but dang if she's not a supportive mama. She didn't care at all that her character was in the play. And just she had me dying. That's I know I've had some criticisms about this, even though at the beginning I was like, I loved this season, and then all I've done is criticize the season. criticize. That's all he does.
But I loved her character. Just the comedy in the season overall, I think, was a lot better than season 1. I loved the comedic moments and how they were in balance with some of the dramatic moments. When Cassie was going through a tirade and she's like, this girl needs an effing exorcist, I was dying.
I just love when she's just like, I don't care. I just want to watch my billionaire matchmaker.
Oh yeah.
That's a
that was my favorite scene. That was my favorite scene. She's like, it's the moral of the story or something like that. She's like, it doesn't matter. Just let me watch my show. Just 1 hour a day is all I want.
I mean, she's not a very attentive mom. She's often just just drink her wine and kind of just let things play out. But I do love that she at least is there for Lexi. Like she did try and help. Like I think that's cool.
She tried to help keep her some decorum, pulling her off the stage as she's freaking out, yelling at everybody.
Yeah,
when she was so honored and like to be portrayed by Ethan.
She screams the second Ethan comes on stage as her. She's like, "Ah, that's me!" I was like, "That's a mama for real," because she would really do that and just be like, that's me right there.
Well, like with this podcast, I talk a lot about things I've done in the past I'm not proud of. My mom's still going around being like, look, my baby does this. My baby does this. What is she talking about? She talks about everything. Don't worry about it. But go watch it. So like, yeah, I get that's the support. I think that's the best type of mom. Like they're more realistic, but that their support is more real too. Plus is more fun because the way she's just that whole. I think she was one of the better parents almost because she was like kind of shit, but she was like there. She was when the kids needed it. She was there.
Rue's mama, I don't know how she does. Like that's what I mean by Sam Levinson don't know how to write black characters because Rue's mama. If she was a real black mom, you better believe half of the stuff Rue tries to do in that episode 5, she would have got a backhand before as soon as when she tries to make the sentence talk about something, I'll do whatever I want in your house or like under your roof. Before that sentence, before the I would come out her mouth, all her teeth would be on the floor. Like, I don't care who you think you are.
I think he took some of the criticism, some, not all, of the criticism from season one, when in season one people were like, this ain't believable, because in no Black world. So I saw a little bit of improvement in season two and I have to put myself in her mom's shoes, because she tried every single tactic with Rue. She tried bargaining with Rue. She tried making her feel guilty. She tried, disciplining her. She tried slapping her at one point. She tried,
but only because she pushed G,
begging
not
her.
because she's just tripping. Like, I feel like there's a lot of Black parents, drugs or not. Like, the second you just start talking about what you not and are going to do under my roof, oh no, you got to get up out of here. Like, at the very least, she would have probably picked Rue up and just thrown her out the house and been like, "Nah, you got to go." That ain't no discussion, ain't no
in
negotiation.
A lot of people's lives, if you are a child, if you're a person of color, and your mom's around, you're getting threatened to be kicked out if you do something bad. I feel like at one point, I don't feel like maybe not Jonathan. I don't think anybody could. I don't think you could ever push your parents that far. Although
when I was a kid, and my parents would threaten me with the spanking. At some point, I can like count on the number on one hand the number of times I've been spanked. But as a kid, I was threatened with the spanking, and at one point when I was like 8 or 9, at one point I would be like, man, spankings don't work on me anymore. But it was,
my mom will still try to threaten me with it now. I don't even live with her. All right. And the Latin household, the mom can still threaten, and she doesn't live with me. She's like, you're not too big. I'm like, you need a knee replaced. How are you gonna try to fight me? She's like, I'll find a way. I'm like, you can't even fight me though. But I agree, yeah.
I mean,
yeah, she was.
I get you, I do, and that's I think the biggest thing, and it's because I'd say it, and I'm still gonna say it now. Watch the special episodes of Rue and Jules.
No,
for a lot of context for a lot of things, but in particular, there's one moment in the special episode for Rue that made it even harder for me to watch episode 5, because at that point, it is so easy to want to check out and be like, okay, Rue's just lost it, like, we're done. But there's one point in the special episode where Ali and Rue are talking, and he talks about how, the thing about the disease of addiction is that most people don't see it as a disease. They see you as selfish. They see you as self-centered. They're like, if this girl don't care about herself, why should I care? And, and I think this season really pushes that idea of like, you see Rue do some diabolical things in this series. You see her gaslight Jules. You see her gaslight Gia and make her think she's crazy for being concerned that she wants to smoke weed, knowing full well it's gonna, even if it was true, she would divulge into doing drugs again. Like, you see Rue lie to her friends and family, treat them like garbage. But at the same time, it's one of those things where the show is being like, this is what it is, but what do you think? Like, are you gonna check out on this person? You know who they are, like when they are sober, you know who they are as people. And it challenges you. It challenges you to be like, no, this isn't desirable. No, and maybe no, Rue's not making good decisions, but I don't want to leave her either. Like, I don't want to just forget about her because she's struggling and she is trying. And so I think that was the thing about episode 5 that made me be like, this is a really great episode, because I think it's one of the few in this season that really challenges the audience to be like, here's what it is. And we're not going to try and sugarcoat it. Like, Rue is going through withdrawals. It is a nightmare for not just her, but for everybody involved. And you got to deal with it.
And I get what you're saying, but I'm also, again, been through that and all that. I'm also a very big advocate that if it is hurting you, my issues and what I go through should not, be your issues as well. And I've always said this, I do suffer from several mental disorders. Certain times I lose who I actually am. It's not fun. And if at any of that point where I'm no longer in control, you get hurt, you owe me nothing to the point of staying. You owe me nothing. I have no right to ask you to stay. If I hurt you, or if I say something, that's just horrible and like friendship burning, I refuse to allow those issues to be used as an excuse. Yeah, it's out of my control, but it is still a responsibility of my own, unfortunately. And I get what you're saying with Rue, and I do agree. There is a point where you do still want to stay with it just because you're like, well, we've all been through all this. And yeah, there's a point where it's like, yeah, we've been through this, we're getting through this, we're together. But there's also like that light where it's like, well, now I'm kind of just staying for you. And then there's no more beneficial to the relationship, where it's just, I'm just getting hurt over and over. But all you can say is just, you're going through this. And I'm like, well, that's no longer when it's a healthy relationship. And whether the person is, no matter what they're going through, it is not yours to take. But with the show, of course, it's different because it's not that deep. But I will say
and the
that
show acknowledges that it is, and that again in the special episode, the show acknowledges
no,
if you're going to be to be sober is to like take responsibility and to like a good, like to do it for yourself. And it's why I love that line at the end between Lexi and Rue, where Rue's like, your dad is an addict, but I'm sure that he wakes up every morning thinking I'm going to be better for her. But that's the problem, is that he's not. He only wants to do it for you, and so the show acknowledges, no, to be sober and the battle of sobriety is not about your relationships. It's about you. Like, it's about wanting to be better for yourself first and foremost before you can be better for somebody else. And so I think it's cool. I think the show is, I don't think the show is bad. I just want, if nothing else, in season 3, I just want the show to be like more attentive to not being so focused on cool cinematography and really cool epic moments, and more focused on, we are trying to tell great stories with these characters, and they will all be wrapped up, not wrapped up in the sense of like there's no cliffhangers, but wrapped up in that it feels like a final story by the end of it.
Sure.
Well, after this episode, it seems like we might have to do a part 2 of a mental health episode when Mr. Kyle Moore gets out of the Big Brother Canada house. We can reference Euphoria as well. So do we want to give grades on this season?
Yeah, I mean, Jonathan, you can go first.
So I'm going to give this season, this is tough because I loved the action in the show. I loved the episode where Rue is, screaming at her family and running around the town. I loved, in season 1, I loved the carnival episode. That was probably my favorite episode of the season. But in season 2, I loved the action with Fez and the cops and Ashtray. I also loved that really, I guess you could call it juicy story with Cal, his backstory. So I think this season gave us a lot of meat. The meat was flavorful, but some of the meats didn't go well with some of the other sides. So
it's analogy.
I get what you're doing. I get what you
mean. It's just that I didn't expect you to continue going into the
So for that reason, I think I'm going to have to give this season a B. That's going to be my rating. I loved the content. Each episode, I was invested in it. But after I would think about the episode, and my view of it would kind of go down a little bit once I was out of that world. But once you're in the world, you're immersed in it. But once you're out of it, it doesn't necessarily hold my attention as much. So that's why it's going to be a B for me.
What about you, Jerome? What do you got?
I think overall, I did enjoy the season. Oh, excuse me. I think it is a nice elevation from season one. I think I would love to see them keep a lot of the cinematography choices in this show, keep a lot of the seriousness of this show, but just take it a little step further with this in the character department as far as the storytelling goes. I think there's so much they can do with these characters now that we know them. It's not like they're introducing any, well, hopefully they're not introducing any more people, because we haven't talked about Elliot that much, but to be quite honest, it's because there's not much to say. He's kind of just there. He doesn't really have, we don't know his backstory. There are rumors that he might be the third Jacob's
Nate's brother.
Yeah. Because, and I am curious, to be quite honest, because Cal has 3 kids, but we have no clue where that third one is.
But like, Elliot.
But Elliot's, I don't think it is Elliot, because Elliot's
like a
removed. Like he's had his own life and everything.
Yeah, and he's like more ethnic than them.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I don't know.
Maybe, I don't know.
So, they clearly don't know what to do with ethnic characters.
Yeah, I don't know why they added Dominic Fike. Not that Dominic Fike does a bad job. He does what he's required of to be in this show. But it's just the fact of like they don't really have a lot for his character to do outside of be like this extra love interest between Rue and Jules, in this kind of weird love triangle they've got going on. He's a fun character. I loved all the truth and dare stuff. Also, if you're going to steal alcohol, real quick, if you're going to steal alcohol, maybe you're already stealing alcohol. Why take a case of White Claw seltzers? All right.
And why get mad at Rue for drinking the alcohol that y'all stole?
You stole and gave, and clearly saw her take a can. No, I mean, anyway, but moving on. Overall, though, I would just love to see more from everybody. I loved Rue's story this season. I think it was really good. I loved seeing kind of the more, because the first season we kind of get a little bit of the harsh life of Rue being a drug addict. This season I think we get to dive in a little deeper. I'm hoping the third season, because she's now sober at the end of this season, we get to see more of another side of her now that she's sober and trying to see what that life is about. So hoping they constantly evolve that character, especially because she's the main character. I would love to see these side characters also get a lot more. I want to see Kat get a lot more. All right. How dare she gaslight Ethan like that? That wasn't cool. Ethan's a good man. He also deserves an Emmy too for all those dang roles he played in Lexi's play.
A Tony.
At least a Tony. For a fake play. But
I mean, it felt real. They went for it.
But yeah, also Sydney Sweeney, it's amazing this season. I hope she gets some recognition. I know that she's been wanting it for Euphoria and she deserves it, so hope she gets more recognition. Overall, I give this show a B-. I agree with a lot of Jonathan's points. I think that a lot of the episodes are great when you're watching them, but then when you really start analyzing it, and I was debating binging the whole season again to see, like, as a whole, does this work as a season? And I didn't have to just realize, like, I don't think it does. I think it's very much a lot of segmented, really great, really dramatic moments, but they don't all quite mesh together. And at the end, it doesn't feel like they're all come to a cohesive ending for everybody. Just for a few characters here and there that Sam Levinson really wanted to focus on, but the rest of them kind of just get forgotten about. Because even Lexi's play, after it's done, we don't get any extra thing with Lexi. It's like, we did the play, and now Lexi's in Euphoria. The end.
In the shadows again.
So, who's to say? But we'll see in season 3 if he improves on a lot of this stuff. He's already got the world's attention, so.
Alex, what is your grade?
I would have to say I really enjoyed a lot of parts of this. However, the show as a whole kind of falls on a C level for me. I would definitely recommend it. I do think it is also that they are capturing kind of the essence of the generation next, which is the Generation Z.
I was about to say Gen Z.
No,
Gen
Gen Z. I don't know why I went X. I was like, no, wait, that's not right.
It's
Gen
because you
Z.
said Generation Next.
Yeah,
So
that's where I was like, wait. The Gen Z, they are chaos, man. They are like fucking insane. And I respect the hell out of that. All right. A lot of the millennials now, we've been beaten down. We've had to deal with, our boomer generation. We've had to just work. Yeah, we're all tired. Like we
the
hit
old
like
man in me is thinking Gen Z is stupider though too. I don't know what it is. Like,
dude, no, I've seen them on TikTok and I've seen that they are next level crazy. And I respect that. Because crazy gets shit done. We were so beaten down and tired.
That's it. I mean, they're breaking their spines climbing on milk crates. Like, you know what I mean?
Okay, first off, I didn't see
Jerome,
a Gen Z do that. I didn't see.
Jerome,
I saw
you're on the
people
verge
do
of
that.
Gen Z.
Yeah,
maybe, but I'm just saying
you're a generation splitter. So shut up. That's why you crazy. That's why you're crazy.
Because I know I'm on like the tail end of millennial.
I was born in '95.
That's like
that's like splitting it, yeah.
Gen Z, yeah.
I think 96 is when they start. No,
because I think my sister's a millennial and she's born in '98.
Point
no.
is, no.
When does Gen Z start then?
I've heard multiple things, but it's the most like conclusive that I've heard is 95 is the cutoff for millennials.
Gen Z is from 1997 to 2012. Millennials from 1981 to 1996.
Okay.
So Jerome, you literally on that like cusp. They're right there. I am very much a millennial. I was born exhausted. All right. Fucking like born with bags in my eyes. I do say Gen Z is crazier. They're a crazy generation. I respect them. They're born into technology. Did you know? Other story, not irrelevant to this story. I enjoyed Euphoria. I thought it was really good. I think the writing just got stagnant a bit in many parts. A lot of characters didn't get to have their kind of real moment in the sun. Like with Rue, I said, her character just felt like stagnant. It was there. There was no other parts to her, and it was just kind of like dull and boring, especially when you put her. I understand she may be a more realistic character, or she may be a character that you're like, this is very personal and experience. However, you have all this other stuff going on, all this other chaos, and you're putting a character that literally is just high and in the center. She's actually the least threatening character, the least worrisome character, the least interesting character. Well, like, oh, she's high. At least she's not like sleeping with somebody's boyfriend. Putting on a play where we have no idea where they got the production value from, or doing all this other stuff. Rue being high actually isn't the biggest concern at the moment.
Maybe Fez helped Lexi get the budget. I mean, he sells drugs.
Maybe, yeah. Like at that point, it's like actually Rue being high is like the least of my concerns at the moment.
They don't have money for teachers, but they do have money to.
Right, I got like.
Well, that's where they save the money at. They don't pay for teachers. Like they have no teachers.
Like I got
students
3 girls fighting on the stage right now. Like Rue being unconscious right now, just sleeping because she's passed out from drugs, kind of the least of my problems. So like she became became less of an issue. And I do agree with you both. Some characters had such good like chances to be a moment, like with like Lexi, but then after the play, she's just gone. And it's like, well, no, she created this whole big event and like poof, like not even really visible anymore. So I will say I feel like there were such good story moments in season 2, but they did drop the ball a lot. So that's why I would end up giving it a C. Cinematography, really beautiful, especially the episode where Rue is on the run. That was amazingly well done. But other than that, I think they need to do more. They need to focus more on the writing than the visual of the show. And I think they lost that a lot in this season. I never watched the special, so I can't say anything to that. But from season 1 to season 2, they definitely lost the writing ability. But the visual, it did get better. So I think they just need to do more when they come to their characters.
Well, with that being said, we will see.
Well,
what happens?
Do you guys think about Euphoria season 2?
Yes. Let us know. We'll see what happens in season 3. I mean, who knows what's going to happen between now and 2024.
I hope everyone will
corona-
still be okay. Like that's a long time. Like how
I-
many?
if coronavirus happened between 2019 and now, it's like, what's gonna happen when
I was reading a
Yeah.
book that had the summer of 2020 in it, and I was reading and I was waiting for something of the pandemic to hit or for something to mention.
never mentioned?
The book was released in 2018. They predicted 2020 summer to be normal, and I was waiting for all this stuff when I was reading this book, and I was like, wait a minute.
You're like, when was this book written?
This is what they thought was going to be 2020. It's trippy.
Yeah.
Like
I just, I'm so just ready for the next season for Euphoria though, because I'm really interested to see where this goes from here. Like, especially the Fez ashtray thing. I know you didn't really talk about that either, but I'm curious to see how that's gonna what that's gonna affect. Also, big shout out to Chloe Cherry. I feel like she'd be overlooked. She plays Faye. A lot of people probably overlook her because that's the thing. Sydney Sweeney's complaining about her stuff, rightfully so. But at the same time, Chloe Cherry is also, it's like, because Chloe Cherry, for those who don't know, is an adult film actress. That's where she came from before. This is her first like theatrical, like, or her first big role in like something that isn't adult film. So needless to say, like, good on you. Glad you like you're moving up in your career, but also like give her props. I think she does a great job as Faye as well.
Well, with that being said, Jerome, where can we follow you or find you?
You can find me at Not Jerome Rhett on Instagram, as well as at RoboZoo Media and at Jerome_the_show. For all the other artistic things and creative stuff I do outside of this podcast. And also, if you want to follow us and see more of us, you can follow us again at The First Ones to Die on all social medias, but more specifically at the YouTube channel. Go check it out. There's all types of content up there, gaming stuff, vlog videos. We just put up our year-end review for year one of The First Ones to Die. So if you want to see some highlights from our podcast from year one, which was last year, check that out as well. But we also have mini reviews, book reviews, all types of stuff, and filmed versions of all of our podcasts. So if you want to see all of our beautiful faces, tune on over there.
Yes.
You can find me. Just keep going, I guess. At Alex and Nobody on Instagram and on TikTok. And on TikTok, you can also find the First Ones to Die podcast, where I post little bits of the visuals or the video that you'll see on YouTube and other little fun things we do. The First Ones to Die is also where you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, our email, firstonestodie@gmail.com, where you can email us, send us suggestions about what you think we should talk about, or any ideas that you may want us to discuss, or, find out how Jonathan does his black magic of stopping in the middle of episodes. I'm still not okay with that, man. We've been friends for years, and I never knew that about you. So give us a shout or, send us a link. We're always happy to look at stuff. What about you, Jonathan? Where are we finding you?
Yes, you can find me at Jonathan Keys on Twitter, Instagram, wherever you please. Next week, I don't know what we're talking about next week, but we're going to be here for something. All right.
That's right.
You bet your darn apples. All right.
No, we're talking about, aren't we talking about what do you think we're talking about?
What?
You got the little horns.
The Batman.
Yeah, the Batman.
Oh, are we?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, it's next week. It's already out now, but you don't have to wait a whole week, audience, for our review.
I'm gonna be drinking. You're making me talk about the Batman.
I don't see what your issue is with Batman.
I have a lot of issues with Batman, and
we'll
know what my
into
issues
them.
are with my Batman. You know my issues.
We'll get into them next week. Brace yourselves, ladies and gentlemen. All right. With all of that, we hope you enjoyed our Euphoria review, and we'll see you next time. Peace.
Bye.